A man was lying on the sand of a silent beach. His body remained motionless, resting against the low seawall that separated the shore from the city. The sea rolled slowly a few meters away, while the cold wind of the early morning passed through his carefully arranged clothes. Nothing seemed out of place, except for one detail. The man was dead, and no one knew who he was. When the body was discovered on Somerton Beach in Adelaide, South Australia, on the morning of December 1st, 1948, the scene appeared strangely calm. The man was dressed in an elegant suit, tie, and well-polished shoes. There were no signs of struggle, no blood, no visible injuries. His face looked relaxed, as if he had simply fallen asleep while looking out at the ocean. But the details soon began to disturb investigators. Every label had been carefully removed from his clothes. There was no wallet, no documents, no identification of any kind. Nothing revealed where he had come from. The autopsy revealed something even stranger. The body showed signs consistent with poisoning, yet no known poison could be detected in his system. It was as if the substance had simply vanished. Then investigators discovered the object that would turn the case into one of the most baffling mysteries in criminal history. Inside a small hidden pocket in the man's trousers, they found a tiny piece of paper, carefully folded. Later, it would be discovered that the paper had been torn from a page of a book. On it were printed two words, Tamam Shud. The phrase came from a Persian book called The Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, a collection of poems reflecting on destiny, life, death, and the fleeting nature of existence. The phrase roughly means ended or finished. Police then began an obsessive search for the book from which that fragment had been torn. Months later, a man came forward claiming he had found a copy of the Rubaiyat on the back seat of his car, which had been parked near the beach on the same night the unknown man died. It was the exact book. The final page had a piece torn out, precisely the size of the paper found in the dead man's pocket. But there was more. Inside the back cover, written in pencil, investigators found a strange sequence of letters that appeared to form a code. To this day, no one has been able to decipher it. Next to that code was also a telephone number. When investigators called it, they discovered the number belonged to a nurse who lived only a few kilometers from the beach. When she was asked to look at the photograph of the man found at Somerton, her reaction immediately drew attention. According to the officers present, she appeared visibly shaken and, for a brief moment, seemed to recognize the man's face. Despite this, she insisted she had never seen him before. Later, it was discovered that years earlier, she had given a copy of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam to a man named Alfred Boxall, a military officer who had served in wartime intelligence. This detail raised suspicions that the case might somehow be connected to Cold War espionage. Even after international investigations, public sketches, and years of searching, no identity was ever confirmed. No relatives came forward. No records matched. The Somerton Man was buried as an unknown person. Decades later, the code remains undeciphered. The book, a collection of poems about fate and mortality, remains at the center of the mystery. And the small torn fragment with the words Tamam Shud still raises questions that no one has been able to answer. What was the connection between that man and the book? Why that specific phrase, torn from the final page? Perhaps the story of the Somerton Man is exactly that. A book that began somewhere in the world but whose ending will probably never be written.